Hello, this is Bucks County Community College, Poli-Sci 111, American National Government. It's February the 8th, and this is the first response to some of the questions that I've been receiving from the class for the question time segment of the course. And we have three questions that I would like to deal with this evening with you. The first one is a really interesting one about the new health care plan. And Mr. Strasser brought some really good questions forth. He wanted to know if the law is constitutional or not, and he himself really analyzed some of the aspects of this situation with his own posting in the questions time. I'd like to refer you to what everybody puts down there, especially the comments about the questions we're dealing with right now. It's an interesting situation because two federal judges, one in Virginia and one in Florida, have ruled that the law is unconstitutional because it's a violation of the Commerce Clause and also in the Necessary and Proper Clause. So the judge in Florida threw the whole law out. He said that it's so inextricably connected that you can't get rid of it just because, or you can't keep it just because one aspect is bad. You have to throw the entire item out, and that is a requirement that everybody be required to have health insurance. The judge in Florida said that makes the whole law invalid. The judge who said that the law is unconstitutional from Virginia, that federal judge said that you could just overrule this part of the law that has to do with mandatory health care insurance, and seemed to indicate that the rest of the law could stand. Another judge in Michigan, I believe it was, and also a judge in Virginia, said that the law is constitutional. Gee whiz. The two judges that said the law is unconstitutional are Republicans, and the two judges that said the law is good are Democrats. What a surprise. Our current Supreme Court makeup is 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats. Justice Anthony Kennedy is a swing vote, so all because there's one more Republican than Democrat, that doesn't really tell us how a potential Supreme Court ruling might go on this. The court has been partisan lately. It is becoming polarized, just like the country seems to be polarized, and that leads one to believe that the vote would probably be 5-4. And the question would be whether it would be 5 in favor of the law or 5 opposed to the law. I am almost certain that the case will go to the Supreme Court, but it'll take a year or two for it to get there. In the meantime, some states, 26 states, are suing the federal government, saying that the law is unconstitutional. 26 states. And some of those states are now refusing to carry out their Medicaid responsibilities, because they say they can't afford it, and then that aspect of the law doesn't apply to them since the law as a whole is unconstitutional. The water is getting really muddy, and it's getting pretty nasty. The Democrats have successfully withstood a Republican attempt to repeal the law in the Congress. That's not going to happen right now. So if you don't like the law, your venue to get that changed is the Supreme Court. I'm almost certain it is going there. Do I think it's constitutional or not? I'm not a Supreme Court justice. I'm not an attorney, so I don't think my opinion should be stated right now. But I feel that there are enough precedents on each side of the issue that the court could rule either way and find tons of things to back it up on either side. The Necessary and Proper Clause can be used to do just about anything if the judges feel that it's worthwhile doing it. So and that's called the Elastic Clause, as you know, probably. And the Commerce Clause, you could argue that the law is intrastate, as far as each state can make up its own mind of what it wants to do. You could argue that it's interstate, that you can't separate things out, and therefore the national government should handle it. So there's a federalism issue here between the states and the federal government, and what's going to happen is totally up in the air. But I appreciate the question, and I appreciate some of the thoughts that have been put down by some of your classmates. That's really sophisticated, and we'll look forward to see where that goes. Another question we had, I believe it's from Frank Now, the question on the healthcare was from Frank. Another question we had was about the Electoral College, and that was from Kim Gannon, I believe it was. Kim Gannon. She wanted to know how this Electoral College works, and we're going to be studying that in a lot of detail later on in the class. The Founding Fathers did not trust the common person to vote for president, so they wanted to have an indirect vote, where the votes would be given to electors in each state, and then those electors would vote for the president. The number of electors depends upon the population of your state. It's the number of representatives plus 2 senators. The Electoral College allows sometimes a person that has fewer popular votes to become president. The most famous recent case would be G.W. Bush's first election over Al Gore. There are other examples as well, which we'll go into later in this course. Yes, that can happen, and people say, well, maybe we should trash the Electoral College system. Other people say that it keeps that insulation that's needed, and it increases the power of various states. There are many arguments pro and con about the Electoral College, but it is true that your vote does not directly go for the president. There is an interesting movement out there to change the Electoral College. The hottest one right now is the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, and that's a proposed agreement between the states that dealing with their allocation of electoral votes. What would happen here is the states would agree to give all their electoral votes to the popular vote winner, regardless of the balance of votes in their own state. This would go into effect once it was joined by states representing a majority of the Electoral College. Several states have already passed this, not enough to come up to 270 Electoral College votes. If and when that number of votes threshold is reached, it would automatically go into effect, and in effect the states would be nullifying the Electoral College. I don't know if you followed all that. We'll talk about it a little bit later. It's called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, and it's an attempt to make sure that the person that gets the most popular votes is also elected president. I'll be posting a website on the web links in the course, and you can go and read more about it on the nationalpopularvote.com site. So that was an interesting question as well. And another, I think Chris sent this one, was whether, in my opinion, Madison realized how large the factions would be. I don't think anybody back then could imagine how large the United States would be, so in that respect I don't think he did. But he did have examples of those state-sponsored companies like the East India Company to go by. Some of those colonial corporations were pretty large for those days. Proportionally, they were pretty big. So I think he did realize that the business interest would be a lobbying force. I think as much as you could conceive of it being a very large impact back in that day, I think he did. Nobody then could have foreseen, the 310 million people that we have today. So, but I do think he thought that proportionally it would be as much of a problem as it is now. Keep those questions coming, and I'll be responding to them frequently throughout the rest of the class. I've been very excited by the posts that I've been seeing, and the quiz scores, and the participations in the discussions have been totally wonderful. So keep up the good work, and I'll be in touch. Go well, everybody.